Welcome back to Davidson Handyman. Today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the rubber boot on a Samsung washing machine. You can see a lot of times they'll erode here at the bottom lip, and I put a silicone caulk patch on here, which was a nice fix for a little while, but at some point it'll still start leaking again. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this. As far as the steps go, it's a relatively simple process. It's just a matter of doing it. So let's get to it. The tools you're going to need for this job, I've separated into the absolutely required and the ones that would be nice to have around if you run into the same problems that I did. So, absolutely required, a Phillips head screwdriver, number 2 Phillips. So far, I've counted 13 screws that I've had to remove from my washing machine. You may have more, you may have less, but you will need a Phillips head screwdriver. A nice to have would be a flathead, a socket wrench with a 7mm socket on it. That's for your second boot clamp. A pry bar if you have to take off the control panel the way that I did with the little hook that gets stuck. Some needle nose pliers, which can be used for taking off the second clamp as well, like I had to do. This is a spring expansion tool. This will be used if you want to for the reassembly on the outer boot clamp. It has a little spring and it'll help you open it up and put the clamp on and then close it. So that's kind of a luxury item if you want to impress your friends and look really cool. Then you can get one of those, or you can just be a normal person and use your hands. A rag or some paper towels. You may encounter some water, some grime, some laundry detergent, scum, whatever, during the process, and you just need something to clean that up when you run into it. Aside from that, that's it. Those are all the tools that you need. Hopefully you only need this one, and those can set aside, but that's it. So let's get to it. All right, the first thing you want to do before you even begin is make sure you have the correct replacement part. Taking the whole washing machine apart and then finding out you don't have the proper replacement is not going to make your day enjoyable. So make sure you have the right part. The next step is you want to make sure the machine is unplugged. After that, on the back of the washing machine, you'll see there's a Phillips head screw right here and another one right here. So we're going to remove these 2 screws and take the top off the washing machine. Now that the 2 screws are out, you want to make sure you have a place to put them. If you have a magnetic tray, that would be ideal. I don't have one right now, so I'm just going to set those aside. But there's a lot of screws that are going to be taken out in this process, so you want to make sure you manage them properly. So to lift off this top, you're probably going to need 2 hands, but what you do is you'll grab it by the back corners. I'm in tight quarters here because this washing machine has a dedicated drain, so I can't slide the pan out, and the washing machine is too bloody heavy for me to lift. Ugh. But what you want to do for the top is pull it back and then up. And that would have... Oh God, upside down. Here we go. Okay. And that's going to slide it off of the front here. So you'll take this top off and set it to the side. Try to keep the screws with it, that way you know which screws go to which part. So I'm going to do that and we'll get to the next step. Okay, now that we got the top off, the next thing we want to do is remove the wash tray. So you carefully pull this out, and you'll see there's a little tab right here. Just push this down, and the tray will come all the way out. Looks like I need to put this tray in the washing machine. And then just set that aside. Yeah, we're gonna give this guy a good cleaning before we put it back together. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is remove this screw and this screw. Some washing machines will have 4. This one only has 2, but this is gonna release the control panel. So we're gonna take these screws out, and then this whole control panel, gently tilt it forward to pull it away from the washing machine. And then there's going to be 2 wiring harnesses over on this side, on the right side, that you have to disconnect. And then we're going to take this and set it aside. But I can't do it all with one hand. So I'm going to take that off, and then I'll kind of see if I can show you how to tilt this forward and where the wiring harnesses are. Okay, so unlike all of the other YouTube videos you watch where everything goes smoothly and perfect, this is a scenario where this washing machine is kind of a pain in the butt. So it didn't just tilt forward. Some models do. If they do for you, then give your washing machine a hug and a kiss. If your washing machine is a knucklehead like this one, then what you're going to have to do is lift up on the right side and pull it backwards a little bit, and it's going to disconnect all the way to about the center button. And then you're going to run into the left side, which is an absolute nightmare. So what you're going to have to do, how it's connected is there's a little hook that goes down. So if you pull it straight out or you try and tilt it back, you're going to snap it and break it. So don't do that. If you have a model that's not just coming off nice and smooth, you need to lift up on the left side to disengage that hook and then pull back. Mine was so stuck, I literally had to use a pry bar, but if you do that, you have to be very, very careful not to crack the casing. So what I did was I lifted up, oh, I already disconnected it. So I lifted up and out, and it came out just about to here, like just a little bit. And then on the left side, right underneath this corner, I used a pry bar and I lifted up with this, and I got this underneath and I lifted up while pulling up gently on the right side until eventually it broke free and opened up for me. So you can see that right there hooked to that guy right there, and it was a pain. And then you have another one that lifts right in here. So anyway, thank God we got the control panel off. We can actually finish this project. You can see the wiring harnesses now. This one, you have this one here. So just put a little pressure on here and then pull and disconnect it. I'm gonna need 2 hands for that. So you'll push down on this tab and pull this straight out. And then you have another one right here. Just push down on that tab and disconnect it, and then set the control panel aside. But I'm actually glad that this washing machine was way more difficult than all the other ones you see online, because this helps me help you get through, you know, these issues that I'm sure you're having, otherwise you wouldn't be watching these videos. So that's how you get the control panel off, and you have to get the control panel off to do this job. So be very gentle. Don't pull out when you're prying this up. If you need to use a little pry tool, do not pull out or you're going to crack this casing. You want to just put upward pressure and just enough to break it loose. So from here, this was a pain. But I put the pry tool right in here I mean, there's a bunch of junk here and all that, but put the pry tool and lift up, slide it and lift it up. And that's gonna get you the rest of the way. So now I'm gonna disconnect the wiring harnesses, and then we're gonna go down here to the filter and remove a couple of screws there, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Stay tuned. Another thing I forgot to mention, this particular model has these little plastic tabs that clip into these holes right there. So to get these up, you just, come on. You can put a little screwdriver and push back and then just lift up the tab. I just lifted up the tab and you can see it kind of pulls it out anyway. So you can just lift on these tabs and these will pop out and disconnect. If you're having problems with that, just be very careful. Again, this is plastic. You don't want to crack it or break it. So if you're prying on it and it takes any more than just a little bit of force, I would stop and try and find a gentler way to do it. So just something else if you run into that problem. There you go. All right, now that we got the control panel off and the wiring harness disconnected, the next thing you're going to want to do is find the access panel. On this washing machine, it's on the left side. Some of them it's on the right side. But find this access panel, give it a push, it'll spring open. And then down here, you want to disconnect this hose from the clip, because we're going to pull the front panel off of the washing machine, so we just need to make sure that's out of the way. Then we're going to unscrew the 2 screws down here that are holding this panel to the washing machine. So we're going to undo those 2 Phillips screws. Get out of the way, hose. There we go. And then we'll get to the next step. But that's the only thing that you have to do down here is disconnect the hose clamp, remove the 2 screws. Once the screws are removed, you can just close this door. Then we're going to open the top door and we're going to remove this switch. For that, you're going to remove these 3 screws. There's one on the bottom, one on the top of the switch itself, and then one up here next to the button. Once those 3 screws are removed, we're going to remove the clamp that goes around the boot, at least the first one. So this is usually located, at the 12 or 6 o'clock position, but just find the spring, get yourself a flathead screwdriver, and you can put it underneath, like so, and then move it around until it comes off. And then you can set this aside. The screws go in the filter housing. These screws go for the door switch and the sensor button. Next thing we're going to do is take this boot, if we can, and then just push it inside the washing machine so that it's not on the front panel anymore. Just all the way around. There we go. And then we're going to remove the screws that are keeping the front panel onto the washing machine. This one has 4, some of them have 2, whatever. Just look for the screws that are attaching this front panel. And we're going to remove those. And then you'll see these tabs right here. Some washers have 1 tab, this one has 2. But all we're going to do is we're going to grab by the door and this front panel. So I have 1 hand under here and 1 hand on the door for support. And we're going to lift up just to get over these tabs. And then this is going to pull forward. And then we want to gently bring it down, releasing the switch, making sure that the switch assembly on the back isn't caught. You just want that to gently free hang, as well as the hose underneath that we took off that clamp. You want to make sure that that is clear of the panel as well. Once those are clear, the panel is going to come down, and then you'll just lift it up off of the mounting supports underneath, and it'll come right off the front, and then we'll set it aside. Again, unlike all of the videos you see online, my washing machine had to be a pain, and the door didn't just lift right up. So what I had to do, and I'm holding the door on so it doesn't fall off the front. Let me put a knee up here. There we go. What I had to do was just take a flathead screwdriver and I put it behind the lip and just pulled it till it popped over that tab. And I did that for each one. And the second that released, the door came forward. So I'm gonna let it slowly fall forward. And you can see the switch assembly is clear. And we wanna make sure that our hose down there, let's see, there it is right there. That little black guy right there. We wanna make sure that that's clear and that nothing else is connected. This looks like it has, okay, I see you. So there's another wiring assembly that runs down in front of that filter that it looks like I'm going to have to disconnect. So we're gonna go back into that front panel. I'm gonna push this back up and clip it really quick. See if it'll go or if it's gonna be a pain. All right, it's clipped enough. Yeah, let me zoom back out. There we go. Amateur video, here we go. All right, cool. All right, so we're gonna come back into this panel, and then under here, we removed that screw that held this on. You can see right there. There's that wiring harness right there. So we're gonna disconnect that wiring harness and then take the door off. But every model is gonna be different. So if you're taking the panel off and you see something still connected, make sure you disconnect it. Otherwise you can break a wire or a connector, and you're just causing more problems for yourself. So I'm gonna disconnect that, make sure everything is nice and free, and then pull this panel off and get it out of the way. Then we can get down to the real business. Stay tuned. Okay, so this job is going swimmingly. So there's a little clip up here that held this in place. This connector just had a locking tab on the top. So once I got it free of that, that's fine, but this little fastener clip broke off right there. But we got one that'll hold it in place enough, and even if it doesn't, who cares? There's a connector there. It'll still fit in that little housing, and it's tucked in behind the control panel, so not ideal, but not life-threatening. So first casualty of the job. I'll take it if that's the only one. So now that this is disconnected, I'm going to remove the control panel, or the front panel, sorry, and get it out of the way. Okay, another X factor. I still can't take the front panel off because we have the bases for storage. You know, these old things. Oh, it's got water in it. Perfect. Well, that's why we're doing this boot. There's water leaking. So there are two screws underneath that are keeping this mounted to the base so it doesn't slide. So I'm going to have to open the base and then undo the two screws in the corners there before the front panel will come off. So extra step, but not too hard. So I'm gonna get to that, and eventually we're gonna get this front panel off, I promise. And then we'll get going. Stay tuned. Success! Okay, so the next thing you wanna do now that you have the front panel off is disconnect the hoses. This particular model has three. There's one here on the side, one here, and one here. Some of them only have one. Just make sure they're all disconnected. You'll compress these clamps, slide them up, and then slide this back off. If you have two hands, it helps. If they're stuck, you can use a small flathead screwdriver to gently put under here and help you get some leverage to pull these off. But you can use some pliers for these ones. These are a little bit tougher. I mean, if you could squeeze these together with your hands, then you're probably a bodybuilder or something. But use some pliers, squeeze this together and slide it up. disconnect all of the hoses, leaving the clamps on them so you don't lose them. And then after that, we're going to disconnect the rear clamp, which on most washing machines, I would assume is going to be at the 12 o'clock position. But of course, on this one, they put it over here at 9 with a hard casing in the way. So it's going to be really fun trying to get into there. You can use a 7mm socket around that bolt to loosen it up. It also takes a Phillips head, but that's what we're going to do next. So let's disconnect these hoses and then we'll go from there. I got the hoses disconnected. I actually didn't need any tools or anything. I just basically gave them a little twist and they loosened up and came right off. So I got these 3 off. These plastic pieces, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to reuse in the new boot because the new boot doesn't come, except for that one. I guess that's maybe for the one hose, but you can see that connector right there. I'm going to need that plastic piece. That's already there. And then the one on the side, I'm going to need that plastic piece too. So let's worry about the next step, but at least we know what's coming. So now the next step is loosening this off and taking off this inside clamp. So I'm going to try and work some magic and either get a socket in there and then or a Phillips head. And then once that's loose, that'll come right off, and then the boot will come right out and we're ready for reassembly. So stay tuned. Let's see what we can do. All right, so I used some needle nose pliers to get in there and loosen this. And after I got a couple of turns, I was able to actually get the rest with my fingers, unscrewing it from the bottom. And you'll see it goes through this little clamp. That's where the threads are. And then this is you can see there's a washer, and then the 2 sides of your boot clamp. So once that's loose, we should be able to just do this. Yep. So we're gonna get over here. We're gonna save this, and we're gonna transfer those other white clips over to the new bib. Then we're gonna clean all this up. I mean, you see all the junk that gets trapped under there when the boot doesn't seal properly. So we're gonna do a thorough cleaning. I'm gonna transfer those pieces over to the new boot, and then we'll start the reinstall process. So we're 50% there, people. Get excited. Stay tuned. If you have any of the connectors you have to transfer, do them one at a time and do them very meticulously, because if you get them in the wrong spot, it's going to ruin your boot and you're going to do all this work and then have to do it again. So I've lined up everything. This was the connector that I pulled from here, and I pulled it through the bottom. So when you install it into the new boot, it's going to come up from the bottom. But you'll notice these are all sealed because they're kind of universal for whatever setup you have. So I'm going to have to puncture a hole in here to feed this through and get that connected in place. And you can see it's got that flange on it right here, and that aligns with this other part of the half circle. So it shows you which way it needs to be aligned, which in this case will be like that. So it makes a full circle when it's installed. And that way this little valve here will be facing the right direction. So I'm going to puncture a hole in here. Again, warning, make sure you have the right hole before you puncture anything. Because if you puncture it in the wrong spot, this thing is useless and you got to buy another one. So do these one at a time. Make sure you have everything lined up exact. You can see this is exactly how it's supposed to be lined up. So I'm going one at a time. I'm going to take this one. That one's already there. And then I'm going to pop this one out and put it down there where that belongs. So be very careful. This is a point where you can make a mistake and cause you a lot of pain and extra work. So I'm going to transfer these. I just wanted to show you that these are sealed as they should be. So you're going to have to puncture the hole to get this in here. All right, stay tuned. All right, we got everything cleaned up, ready to go. The old boot is out. The new boot is ready to go with the connectors. And we are ready for reassembly. You can find reassembly in my next video. So feel free to check that one out to put everything back together and get the install. But this will get you halfway there. I'm hoping the hardest part is over. But let's get this baby put back together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.